Okay, so let's get started. Thank you so much for coming to my session. Today, I'm really excited to be here sharing with you everything about prompt templates, prompt builder, and everything with a developer focus. This is the forward-looking statement slide, which just means that you should make purchasing decisions based on the features that are commercially available. And with that, let me start by introducing myself. My name is Alba Rivas. I am a developer advocate at Salesforce, and here you have my contact details, but don't worry, because I'm going to share a Google Doc with resources, with my contact details, and with everything that I'm covering today at the end of the presentation, including the PDF for the session. So this is the agenda. We are going to take a look at Prompt Builder, and we are going to see why it has been created and which problems that it solves. Then we are going to dive deeper, and we are going to take a look at the different template types that you can create and how is that relevant for developers. Then we're going to see the different ways in which you can ground templates, give context to them. And finally, we're going to take a look at some entry points from which we can invoke our templates. So we have entered the era of generative AI. And there are different ways in which AI is becoming relevant for developers. One way, I'm sure you know it, you have played with it, is code generation. There are many code generation tools out there, and we have our own one, Einstein for Developers, that is currently in beta, and it's getting great innovations from the company. Secondly, developers are going to be required more and more to get involved into projects that implement apps using generative AI features from other companies or from Salesforce. And luckily, Prompt Builder has been designed in a way that developers can build applications on top of it using the prompt templates that you create in the tool. But first, let's take a step back and take a look at how generative AI works. So I'm sure that many of you have used ChatGPT. What you do is you write a prompt with instructions explaining what you want the model to generate, and you send that prompt to the model, so the model generates a response, right? So I did some tests with ChatGPT, and I decided to ask it this. You are a famous character. Generate a sentence that describes your favorite food and its benefits. And ChatGPT responded with this. It may be that many famous characters love ramen, but it also may be that ChatGPT is hallucinating, correct? Then I decided to add some more context into my prompt template, into my prompt. And I asked ChatGPT, you are Popeye, generate a sentence that describes your favorite food and its benefits. And of course, ChatGPT gave me a much more accurate response, because everyone knows here that Popeye loves spinach. But what if this is customer data? This is the case of CRM. The data that you need to use in your prompt is data that may be sensitive, may contain sensitive information, and that we need to protect. So, taking this into account, there are some challenges that affect not only the Salesforce CRM, but all the industry, that Salesforce has explored and has tried to convert into principles, the principles on top of which Prompt Builder is created. First challenge, sensitive data should never be sent to the LLM. If there is information in your prompt about a credit card, passport number, etc., that information should be masked before sending it to the prompt. Second principle, the LLM shouldn't store customer data or use it to train the model. And that's why we have zero retention agreements with large language model providers, and we are going to provide in the future also Salesforce hosted models. Third principle, it should be easy to add CRM data to prompts so they are grounded. And this is the first time that I'm using this word, grounding. We have seen before that including pop-I into the prompt means adding context. It also means grounding the prompt, okay? And I have a bonus principle which especially applies to the Salesforce case, which is because we have so many tools and technologies in the platform, our principle is that prompts should be fully integrated with the platform, so you can call them from various places such as Apex or Flow. So, based on all these principles, we decided to create Prompt Builder, which is a tool in which you can create your prompts. You can ground them with data that may come from the CRM, from an external system, or from Data Cloud. Those prompts are evaluated to create, those prompt templates are evaluated to create a final prompt that it is the thing that is sent to the LLM to generate a response. And in Prompt Builder, you can create those prompts, you can test them. They are also versioned. They follow the same versioning system as Flow, and you can select the models that each prompt will be using when you execute them. Okay, so talking about models, which models are supported today and which models are coming? So today we offer these OpenAI and Azure models that are offered as a service in Salesforce. So when you open up Prompt Builder, they are going to be there for you to use them. And we call these models Salesforce enabled because of that. But if you have a fine-tuned version of any of those models, you can bring it to the platform thanks to Model Builder. That's what's currently available today. Then we have a couple of things in the roadmap. We're working on creating our first Salesforce-hosted LLM, which we are doing that thanks to Anthropic Claude. That's supposed to go out in March. And there are two more models that we want to support under the build your own model approach, which are Google Gemini and AWS Bedrock. So, you create your prompt template, and then you need to invoke it. You need to send it to the LLM. Every prompt template that we have in Salesforce, when you invoke it, it goes through the trust layer. This is a layer in which we are going to do some security checks, and it has a lot of steps, and I'm not going to really deep dive into it because I don't have the time, but I want you to take a look at two shapes here. The first one is data masking, so your prompt is coming through here, and one of the things that the trust layer is going to do is to mask that PII data that may be in your prompts, and also the step of prompt defense, because what we are doing is to add some extra instructions to the prompt saying to it that it must not hallucinate, that it shouldn't be using a rude language, and more. And of course, in the way back, we do data demasking and we do other steps such as toxicity detection. And toxicity is something that is going to be available in Apex and the API very soon. So now, let's get deeper into this. So to understand how to create an Apex class, either to ground a prompt template or to invoke it, we need to first understand the different prompt template types that are available. Therefore, so the first one are sales email templates. And this one is used to draft emails from the out-of-the-box drafting email functionality in Salesforce. These kind of templates are bound to a user, who is the user who's sending the email. Then you have to choose if you want to bound them to a contact or to a lead, which is going to be the recipient of the email. And optionally, you can bound them to another record, because you may want to include information in the prompt about other record, which is relevant for composing that email. Second, we have field generation templates. These templates are meant to be used in your Lightning record pages, so that, taking into account information of that specific object, Einstein generates a summary, a text, some content that is meant to store in a field in that record page. And that's like the out-of-the-box entry point that has been created for these templates. And of course, they need to be bound to a record because they are going to work on a Lightning record page. Then there is another type which is used for Copilot, but I'm not going to focus in this one because of lack of time. And I think the one that is really more interesting for developers is the Flex template one. Because with the Flex template one, you have the flexibility of binding the template to up to 5 different objects in your org. So for instance, you can say, in this template, I want to gather information of one contact, one lead, and maybe a customer object that I have, and another more. So they are more flexible, and also there's no out-of-the-box entry point to execute them, such as like the draft email functionality and so on. And the only way to execute them is by creating a custom entry point yourself, which is calling them from Apex or from Flow or from the REST API, or you can call them also from Copilot. So I said that you ground prompt templates with your CRM data or with data that comes from data cloud, external data. And you do that by using a mechanism that we have named data providers. And the data providers can be merge fields and related lists. This is in your prompt template. You can use merge the dot notation to retrieve information from the records that are bound to your prompt template. And by the way, this also works with data cloud fields for contact and lead. You can also use Flow to compute some information in Flow and use that information to make it part of your prompt when it is resolved. And you can also get information from Apex. You can create an invocable action in Apex that returns some text which is meant to be added to the prompt. So that's how you ground prompt templates, how you add the context to them. But then there are different ways in which you can invoke them. We've seen a couple of them. We've seen that out of the box we can draft emails with them and use them in record pages. But all of them, except the one that's exclusive for Copilot, can be invoked through Flow, through the REST API, and through Apex. And that is what is really interesting for us developers. Okay, I will be sharing a PDF with everything at the end. Okay, yes, in case you don't want to take pictures. So how does it work? With Flow, let's take a look at here. Every prompt template that you create is automatically exposed as an invocable action. So same as you can call invocable actions from Flow using the actions element, you can do the same to invoke your prompt templates and do something with the response that the model generates. Super easy. You don't need to do anything. It's automatically exposed. With code, we have Apex. In Apex, we are going to have a method in the Connect API that we can use to generate a response from a prompt template. And on the REST API, there is an endpoint, Einstein prompt templates, and then the template name generations that you can use for exactly the same. From a third-party system, we can call that endpoint, invoke our prompt template, and make it go through the trace layer, and then go to the model and generate a response. So this will be how you get a response using that prompt template. Of course, again, all our prompt templates go through the Einstein trace layer before going to the large language model. Great. So let's see this in action. I want to introduce you to Patrice. Patrice is a real estate agent who is working for Greenhouse, which is one of our sample apps that represents a fictitious real estate company. Patrice is going to use our Einstein generative AI capabilities to interact with her customers. So it happens that customers can, when customers have interest on a specific property that Patrice is selling, Patrice can log that in the system and can take some actions. So one of the actions that she can take is to send an email to that customer, to that contact, summarizing the information of the property that that person has interest in. And we're going to do that thanks to a sales email. Second, we're going to use a field generation template to allow Patrice to generate a summary of all the properties a contact has interest in. And finally, we're going to use a flex template to allow Patrice generate some social media posts for promoting a property. So let's get into it. So this is Greenhouse, the app that I was talking about. And in Greenhouse, you can take a look at the different properties that are available. You can also take a look at the contacts. The contacts are going to be our customers in this case. And the first functionality that we are going to see is how Patrice is able to generate a sales email thanks to a sales email template. Sales email templates, you can use them in the email composer. You see that there is a button here, draft with Einstein. But first, we are going to take a look at the prompt template so you can see how it's being rounded. It's this template here. Okay, so here we are in Prompt Builder for the first time. And you can see that in this template, I'm using merge fields and related lists to bring some information of the records that are bound to that prompt template. Remember, sales email templates are bound to the user who's sending the email, contact or a lead, and optionally a record. In my case, the record is the property custom object because I want to send information about that property. So basically here I'm asking the LLM to generate an email following a specific format, a specific order, and so on. And what is interesting from this sales email template is that I'm running it with Apex, meaning that I've created an Apex method that is going to return some string content that I want to include in my prompt before sending it to the LLM. That's rounding. So let me go to VS Code and show you how that method has been created and how I have been able to make it pop up in Prompt Builder. So first of all, if you want to run a prompt template with Apex, you need to create an invocable action with a specific signature, and you need to make it available for the specific types of templates in which you want to use it. In this case, we are saying that this invocable method is going to be available for sales emails. Then that method is going to have the signature, is going to receive a list of requests, and it's going to return a list of responses. And request is a class that represents all the inputs with which that prompt template is going to be evaluated. All those objects to which my prompt template is bound, but being really records in execution time. So depending on the prompt template that you are trying to round, this class needs to be different because it depends on those objects to which the prompt template is bound. In the case of sales email templates, I have the user, I have the contact, and I have my property. Great. Then the response is always the same. The response just has a property called prompt, which is a string property, and it is where you are going to place the string that you want to add to the prompt. So here, what are we doing? Well, I forgot to show something very important. So we're going to work with this property interest use case, right? So the way in which in the system Patrice can add information, can log that a contact had interest on a property is by clicking on this quick action. So in the action, I can look for a contact, for instance, Anna Jones, and I can say that Anna has interest in the city living property. And then I want to use that information into my prompt. So in the email, I not only have information about the property that is bound, but also I add a summary of all the properties in which the contact has interest. And what happens is that that quick action behind the scenes is storing all that information into a junction object. It's a junction object that joins a property and contact. And that's something that I cannot bind directly here with merge fields. I need to use something else. I could use Flow or I could use Apex. And in my case, I decided to use Apex. So what are we doing here? When this prompt template executes, I'm retrieving the contact with which it has been executed. I'm retrieving the property. Then I'm getting information from that junction object, obtaining all the properties for which Anna or the contact with which it's executed has interest in, and then I'm creating a response which has a format that I think is going to be valuable for the model. Then I create a response, and I just add the response data into the prompt variable. I hope it is more or less clear. So that's how we do grounding with Apex, and we are going to see the result just in a second. Then in Prompt Builder, there is an area here, which is the preview area, in which you can take a look at how your prompt resolves once all these data providers have been evaluated, which is the final thing that is going to be sent to the LLM. Well, it needs to pass through the trace layer first, and then you can also take a look at a sample response that the LLM is giving. So for instance, if I pick my contact, Anna, and I pick the property, it was city living, this one, city living, I can preview the result and iterate on the prompt template, because you know that with generative AI, you need to iterate multiple times so you get the result that is accurate and that is valid to your use case. So now you see that here on the left, I have all these values resolved. Now it's saying, I am Patrice, this is my phone number, whatever. And here is where I can see what is being returned from Apex when this is resolved, taking into account the inputs, the objects with which I did the preview. And then the response is a nice email in which Einstein is telling all this to the customer in a much in a nicer way. By the way, there's something else here that I wanted to show you. This is where you can pick the model to use for this template, and you pick that one, and that is the one that is going to be used. And also take a look at this version drop down here. It's very similar to Flow versioning. Okay, so let's go back to our contact, and let's try this in action. As it is a sales email, I can use it with this draft with Einstein capability. When I click on it, some standard actions that come pre-packed with Prompt Builder are going to pop up, but I want to use the custom one. I want to select the property that I want to include in the email, which is the one that the contact expressed interest in, and now is creating the email for me. And now this is not a preview anymore, but this is what has been generated for Patrice to use it and to make her work easier, right? So those are sales templates. What about field generation templates? So field generation templates are used to populate a field. And in this case, I have created a field generation template that is going to generate a summary of all the properties for which this contact is interested, so that we can store it in this field. Field generation templates, let me close this first. You can see that I have a couple of them here. Indeed, I've created this field generation template with an Apex version and also with a Flow version. The Apex version is very similar to what we already saw, because the only difference is that we're going to enable it for field generation templates, and that this is going to change because obviously those templates have a different type of inputs. They only have an object input, the one that you declare when you create the template. I didn't show that, but when you create the template is when you can define the types of objects to which you are going to bind it. In this case, I'm showing you the version that I created for Flow because I think it's a little bit tricky and I think it's also interesting for developers. So I'm just telling Einstein to generate a summary of the properties the contact demonstrated interest in, but I'm gathering that information from Flow. So let's take a look at the Flow. If you want to use a Flow for grounding, you need to pick a special type called template triggered prompt flow. It's different from invoking. Invoking, you pick the action element and you just call the invocable action. That's it, super easy. But grounding is a little bit more difficult. So here, in this element, I'm getting information about the input. I need to have, same as in Apex, I need to have information of the related object, for instance, or the contact. Here, we need to have information of the contact so we can do our queries and retrieve the data from the database. That would be the syntax to use. So I get the records from that junction object, then I get more information from the properties for which I found interest records. It's a little bit more complex in Flow, in reality. And then you see that here there is a new thing, new type of element, which allows me to add lines to the prompt. It's additive. So every time that I use it in my Flow, it's going to add a new line with whatever thing you need. In this case, I'm adding a line saying these are the properties that the contact has interest in, and then I'm iterating over those properties, and I'm adding the information with this format, saying this is its name, the number of bedrooms and bathrooms. By the way, if you want to debug flows, you need to create debug logs for the platform integration user because they are run at the platform integration user, and same for Apex. Okay, so now I think that's it. Yes, let's go to our contact record page and show how this field generation template works. By the way, there's some more steps that we need to do. In App Builder, so the field generation template is bound to an object. Then you can use it in multiple fields. So you need to define in App Builder in which field you want to use it. And the way to do that is you pick the field. It needs to be a text area field. And this section here is going to appear. And then here you can select from all the field generation templates that are available for this object. So I already did that, and now I can click on Edit, Of course, I could add this summary myself, but instead of that, what we are going to do is to use our field generation template that is invoking Flow behind the scenes to ground the prompt template, is sending that template to the LLM, and it's generating a summary. And I was able to create this summary, which may seem simple because I'm just listing the property, but probably in Flow or Apex I can compute or find more interesting facts of the properties that the contact likes. And then I can go ahead here and save the field. So that's how field generation templates work. Let's take a look at our third use case, which is a flex template. We are going to use a flex template. For flex templates, there's no default entry point, so the only way to call them is, through Copilot, Flow, Apex, and the REST API. Flow, super simple, and Apex, I'm going to show you. This is a Lightning Web component, and in this Lightning Web component, we are going to use Einstein to generate some social media posts for Twitter, LinkedIn, and Slack that include information about this property. So in this case, the template is this one. The template grounding is simple because I just want to use information of the property that is bound. I can bound from 1 to 5 different records. But what I really tried to do was to give information to the model about the format that I want it to use for the different posts. So for instance, I'm saying that you can use Unicode and emojis for LinkedIn and for Twitter. And I'm also sharing some examples of BlockKit code, which is the type of JSON that you use to create rich user interfaces in Slack to post nicer posts. Okay, so I'm giving all that information to the model, and at the end, I'm saying that I want to have the response in JSON, and it's going to be a JSON response in which I'm going to have a Twitter parameter, a variable, a LinkedIn, and a BlockKit variable. And I'm going to work with that in my Apex code. So let's take a look at how we are using that prompt template to get that information and use it into our Lightning Web component. So I've created an OR-enabled method that I'm going to call from the Lightning Web component. In this OR-enabled method, I need to first create the inputs. The inputs are going to be the records or the objects to which your template is bound. What your template needs to know to be able to evaluate all the groundings. Then we're going to configure the invocation parameters. For instance, a useful property is this one here, is preview equals false, because it allows you to decide if you want to just resolve the prompt template and see the result, or you want to also send it to the LLM. And that can be useful to say some invocations. And then I'm using the connect API method that I mentioned before, generate messages for prompt template, passing in the name of the flex prompt template, but I could also use sales or field generation templates, and passing in this object here that contains all the information about the configuration under which I want to execute that template, and also the information about the inputs that I'm resolving, which are going to finally have my property ID, the one for which I want to generate the social media post. And then I can get the response from the generations property. If we take a look at the JavaScript code of the Lightning Web component, we see that here we are invoking the Apex method, then we are parsing the response, and then we are getting the Twitter property, the LinkedIn property, and the BlockKit property to use that information in my HTML file and show the post. So let's try it out. is this one. Let's click on the button and see what generates for me. Okay, there it is. So it generated a post for Twitter, which is shorter. It generated another one. This time it didn't do it really well. Sometimes it generates like a longer post with bullets and so on, and it generated some Blockit code. I'm going to copy the Blockit code, and we are going to try it out in Blockit Builder. This is a page in which you can try out whatever Blockit code you generate before posting to Slack, and then you can send to Slack this way. And as you see, it generated something cool. It added a button because that was in the instructions. I can click on the button and take a look and see the property from there. So what I mean is really powerful what you can do with these prompts, and I'm really excited with this. Okay, so last thing, I want to show you how to invoke prompt templates from the REST API. There is a new endpoint called Einstein Prompt Templates. You need to specify the template name that you want to invoke and then generations. And then you can use this endpoint to invoke the prompt template and use the result in external third-party system. You can pass the information, so the same information that we compute in Apex, we are passing it here in JSON format, because basically we are passing the input property value, which has a field that holds the ID of the property for which we want to generate the posts, and controlling some things that I could also control in Apex, such as the temperature, like how much I want it to hallucinate, or I allow it to hallucinate, and other parameters. Indeed, the list is longer, although here I'm showing just a couple of them. And if you send that to Salesforce, then very soon we're going to see the request that gets generated, which is very similar to what you receive in Apex. Remember that to get the response, I tried to access the generations parameter. Here is the same. Generations is the result, what the model has generated, and if you want to take a look at the resolved prompt, is also available there. Indeed, I know that in the upcoming releases, we are going to expose much more into this response. For instance, we're going to have access to the toxicity value that we have computed, that the trust layer has computed for this invocation, and many more things. Okay, so let's continue with the presentation. Under all these functionalities, there is a data model, of course, and this is the data model if you want to take a look. To highlight, each generative AI prompt template has a version. They also have a type, and depending on the type, they are going to be bound to different inputs. And then each prompt template also has data providers, which are the mechanisms that you are using to ground the data, like Apex, Flow, merge fields, etc. All this is also exposed in the Metadata API through a new metadata type, which is Gen AI Prompt Template, which is already available in our browser and in the Salesforce CLI. And it's just one metadata type, because in that metadata, all the information of the template is compiled. You are going to be able to see the different versions and so on. I have all the code for this session. It's in GitHub, and I have it in my resources, so there you can take a look at how it looks like. I have also the metadata for prompt builders uploaded. So I'm sure that you have this question. So how do I get license for this? How can I test it, try it out as a developer? For licensing, there are two options. You can either upgrade to one of the Einstein 1 editions, which were previously known as Unlimited Edition Plus, or if you don't want to upgrade, you can buy one add-on, Einstein for Sales, for Service, or for Platform. Any of these possible combinations are going to provide you access to Prompt Builder. And they give you a capacity that should be enough for regular usage use cases. But if you are a power user, which means that you are using quite a lot Prompt Builder, you can buy extra capacity. And for developers, we can try it out. There is a Trailhead module called Quick Start Prompt Builder that has been released today. And in that Trailhead module, there is a hands-on challenge. And before doing the hands-on challenge, they allow you to create a 5-day trial in which you will have Copilot access and Prompt Builder access. So you can go there and try that out. Yeah, so we've arrived to the end of the presentation. We have seen how we can create and ground prompt templates and how this is going to be useful to implement many use cases. We have seen some of them. We have also seen that prompt templates are fully integrated with the platform. You can invoke them from anywhere, and that means reusability and flexibility. And of course, that everything goes through the translator, and it means that it's all backed by Salesforce Trust. I love this meme because it says, AI will replace programmers. No, but we need to learn AI and we need to adopt AI so that other programmers don't replace us. These are the resources. Please take a look, take a picture. I'm going to show them to you in a second, okay, because I want to show what I have. I have like all my contact details and all the resources that are available that exist out there for Prompt Builder, because there are not many. So make sure to take a picture and download them or take a look at them if you want to know more. And that's it from me. Thank you so much. I have 1 minute for questions. Probably it's not too much, but I can take questions asynchronously. Thank you.